say about it. It's just like I haven't not been able to talk about the big C word, the coronavirus, despite my best attempts to avoid it. But you are also pushing the boundaries of VR fitness. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually used VR to work out and lose 15 pounds just by working out in VR, like using our software, playing Beat Saber, Box VR. I actually worked out at the Black Box VR gym in San Francisco for a while. It was really cool. Big shout out to them. It's been really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. What's that like for people who haven't been to a VR gym? What kind of talk us about
awesome. The Black Box VR is definitely the best gym out there. It's an actual gym that you go to, and they have a bunch of HTC Vive Pros inside these bays. So it's almost like going to a location-based VR arcade, but they've got clean box technology. So if you're not familiar with clean box, they're awesome, and it automatically uses UV lights to clean the HMDs. You take it up there, you throw on the HMD, and you just load a workout. Like as your chest presses or whatever, you're playing a game at the same time and trying.
Okay.
Trying.
Excellent.
To,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
To accomplish tasks.
Yeah. Excellent. Let's crack on with that conversation in a second. Are you amplified? Can you click on the megaphone, please, mate?
I just did.
Oh, you just did.
Thanks very much.
I'm glad they're back. Yeah,
appreciate it.
But we caught most of it, and certainly, it's And what about the I don't know, the changing rooms? Is there some kind of VR app which makes you feel like you're not surrounded by sweaty, ugly men?
Yeah. It's definitely the nicest, highest class gym I've ever been to. Okay. They're beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah,
gyms,
good.
So.
Oh, the gyms or the men? Right. Okay. Good. Well, let's move on away from changing rooms and look at the first thing which I put up here. Now, you only use this brand. Why?
You know why? This is a total mistake. So I got into photography because I am the CEO of a visual computing company in Seattle, Washington, and it takes up time. So I just wanted to do something to feed my soul and get me out of my house, out of behind a computer, outside.
Yeah.
So I walked to our mall one time. I wanted to buy a camera, and I walked to the mall, and the camera shop that I went to had closed. But they opened another camera shop, which is the Leica camera shop. I didn't even know what a Leica was. I wouldn't even say. I was calling it like a Leica or something. So that's literally why. I just walked in. The guys were really cool. They set me up with a camera, and I just got addicted to them. But since then, that's why I started. But since then, let me see, I have to get higher, make me louder. Is that any better?
Yeah, you can turn your volume up, I think, if you hover over the microphone just to your left there and it'll bring up the mic volume button.
I had to turn it back on again.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
All righty. Yeah, so but Leica cameras are great. They have really good glass and they're like tough as tanks. So
yeah,
they're highly recommended.
Durable.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Durable.
And it gets pretty cold out there, does it, over in Seattle?
It does. It gets a little chilly.
Yeah.
So they can handle the cold and the rain. You don't have to worry about it.
Sure. Durability. And now listen, you didn't send me this photo, but I need to give a bit of background now. No, that isn't me 15 pounds overweight a few years ago in my back garden. That basically is the oldest photo, because you sent me some great photos. I thought, well, how can I connect it to a little bit about the conversation today? That is the oldest photo I have of someone in my family. His name was John, oh God, I can't remember my own family. But anyway, he was born in John Turpin was his name, and he was born in 1852 and he died in about 1930. And I found this on Ancestry.com's website through kind of a friend of a friend, and he's directly related to me. And this is something that I think is what was really reflected in the photos you sent me. It reflects really the culture that you're surrounded in. It's a piece of you, possibly, so we can get a bit deeper into that. And this is one of the things that I kind of photos. You're never gonna want to kind of lose that ability to kind of have a photo photo in your hand? Because with all this digital revolution, Matt, what would you say about that in terms of actually printing photos? Is that something that you do?
Absolutely, yeah. That's actually that's a really, really good point. So more photos are taken now than ever before in human history. And in fact, we actually create more data per second than have ever been created in human history. So all like all combined.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's because of there's a lot of noise, social media, there's a lot of data going back and forth on networks, but nothing's printed. Nothing is printed. So if networks go down, you can't access your cloud servers, you have no record of your photographs. And taking a photo and printing it out is really the only way to have a physical record of that experience. So I actually print out. I do digital photography, but I primarily do film photography, and I develop my own film at home. And yeah, it's definitely, I like the old school. As someone who's the CEO of a technology company, right, spatial computing, going very, very low tech like that is a nice thing to do. It's a nice juxtaposition.
And do you have, is there like one photo that's been handed down to you, you kind of grabbed from an older family member that you've got in your possession?
I don't, and that's why. So I literally only have one photo from my childhood, just one.
Okay.
Of me from my childhood.
Okay.
So we lost a lot of the photos in one of our houses years and years and years ago. So printing out those artifacts is pretty important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
But I do have I have purchased old photos from this great website called Magnum. If you just go to Magnum, look at Google Magnum photography. They have really iconic photos that you can purchase from history, and you can own one of the original prints. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely check that out. Magnum. So, and when we talk about cameras, I mean, we all remember these days, aren't we, developing those films. Was that ever kind of I know you said you got into photography as almost like an escape away from maybe the being stuck at the desk or the technology. But did you experiment much with these? I guess you had always one of these in your back pockets, didn't you, when you were traveling?
Yeah, so I actually primarily use what's my go-to camera is a Leica M6. So I have two cameras. I have a lot of Leicas, but my two primary cameras are a Leica M3 that was built in 1951, still works, zero issues with that thing. And I have a Leica M6, which is an amazing, amazing camera. And that one was built in 1984. And I primarily only shoot film with those, and I'll scan to digital. But this loading to film, and that's I'm an old pro at that right now. I did not know what I was doing when I never got into photography until a few years ago. I just had no interest in it. So I never really used these until recently.
Sure. So it's a release for you. And this is one of the first photos that you sent me. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so this was a photo that I took with my Leica Q. And this was, I used a 28 millimeter lens on this one, what's called fully open. So it's a lens that goes to f2. It just, the amount of aperture, you can open up your aperture very wide to let a lot of light in, or you can open it up very small. So mine was at f2. The lens goes up to f16, which brings the aperture down really small, lets less light in. So if it's a sunny day, you close your aperture. If you want what's called good depth of field, or it's not so sunny, you open the aperture. So this one was taken at the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. And I was there on business, actually. The DoD is a big customer of ours, of my company, Doghead Simulations. And so after our meetings, I always carry a camera with me. There's a guy, his name is Thorsten Overgaard, and he's a famous photographer, and he has a saying that's always wear a camera. So I adopted that. And I was walking around the memorials, and I saw this little boy just playing hide and seek, like scooting around the memorial, hiding from his brother. And I saw this snap, and so I took it. And that's one thing that's important in photography, is to capture what they call the decisive moment. That's why you carry a camera, because you won't be able to replicate this, and you may not ever see it again. So
No. Yeah, amazing. Okay. So, and do you think that the photography, kind of looking through the lens at these things, has brought you closer to other subjects you might not have really touched on in the past, like, for example, history?
oh, absolutely, yeah, 100% true. Yes, totally.
Yeah. Okay.
So with photography, like, it really helps you see the world, right? Like, we see the
Yeah.
world, we experience the world, but we never truly see the world. And so once you
Yes.
start seeing the world through a small aperture, I primarily use rangefinder cameras. Actually, I only use rangefinders. It's just a type of camera. Um,
Yeah.
you just see the world in very different ways, and you're always kind of looking for moments like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It helps
No,
you
I
connect
think
with the
we
world.
absolutely, yeah. And there's a great exercise we did actually with Laurel about 72,000 hours ago when we were kind of still in space. And we actually did a round robin to build creative writing skills. And what we did, we were over there by the window in a circle, and one person or Laurel started with a sentence, and the next person had to continue a story. And it was a really great way to kind of get laser focused into people's creativity and fixing, because it's very easy these days to be swamped by all the data, the words, the numbers, the images, but actually to be at one with, for example, a pen and paper or a camera, I guess is something that we should constantly try to find throughout the year, isn't it? As a kind of a release from all of this noise, as you put it earlier.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Good. And one final kind of anecdote. I remember I was in Florence a few years ago. And, can we get any hearts? Anyone been to Florence? Matt, have you been there? Northern
I
Italy?
love
Yeah,
it there.
Tuscany.
Love it.
Yeah, very, very beautiful. But um, I'm not the most, how can I say, I don't know, I'm slightly ignorant when it comes to art. Let's just put it like that. And I don't really understand anything. So I'm walking around for about 3 hours with this camera, taking like 100 pictures. And at one point, I was like looking around, surrounded by people from all around the world, taking photos of monuments and statues and things like that. And Dante's house and the sign above it where it said he lived there. And it was. And I thought, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm taking pictures of, really. It looked nice, but I didn't understand anything. I mean, what could you say about that for people wanting to get into photography? I mean, is it a case of buying the camera, going out and just experimenting, or do you recommend kind of swatting up, reading books or tutorials before?
Well, I will tell you that's a great question. So from my personal experience, like, I'm always learning. So I'm actually completing a degree right now in photojournalism at the New York Institute of Photography in my copious amounts of spare time. So, but I'll tell you, one thing I've learned is I started shooting photos prior to having an academic experience with it. And I honestly believe that the best thing to do is just get out there and shoot. Just get out there and start shooting photos. But keep yourself from taking a million photos. So if you have a digital camera, kind of pretend like it's a film camera, and pretend like you only have a precious 35 shots or 36 shots available, and walk around, or pretend like you only have 5 shots left on your roll, right? Even if you have a digital camera, and walk around and just look for decisive moments like this and snap only those. Because I guarantee you, there's something called workflow. So when you're taking photos, you then, after that, need to do something with those photos. And typically that's load them into Lightroom, fix, tweaks here and there. It's a lot of work, and people don't like doing that. They like the act of taking photos.
Yeah.
So the workflow can be quite extensive. It can be a big time commitment. So I would say try to limit the amount of photos and look for decisive moments.
Yeah. Excellent
Yeah,
advice. Great.
just get out there and do it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And that's, again, actually really interesting you said that, because someone in the creative writing session earlier was just like, it's very easy to kind of get, this stuck writer's block, but just write words on paper and see where it takes you. So it could be kind of very similar to what you're talking about there. Let's move to the second image that you sent over. Yeah, you've got a few tattoos, haven't you?
Yes. I look like I've either been in prison or the military because I have so many tattoos. But this is my favorite tattoo. This is the primary camera of my baby. I don't have children. I definitely consider my Leica M6 my child. This is a film camera. I got it tattooed, and I'll actually do this in public, and people kind of look at me like they'll put their hands up like I'm taking a photo of them.
Yeah, at a distance, it can be quite confusing.
Yeah,
So
it's kind
you've
of
got
fun.
your, sorry, that was the very first tattoo you got, was it?
No, this was probably the 1,000th tattoo that I got.
Okay, right.
But
Okay.
this is my favorite tattoo.
Yeah. And what number was Anderson Pooper?
So Michael is referring to the logo of my company. The name of my company that I own is Doghead Simulations. We've been around 4 years. We make a virtual reality program, kind of like Allspace. And our logo is a dog. It's a real dog. It is my co-founder, Chance Glasgow. Chance Glasgow is a co-founder of the company that created Call of Duty. And I believe Call of Duty Modern Warfare was actually his idea. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it was. But his dog is named Anderson Cooper, like Anderson Cooper. And when we got our company funded, I had our logo, which is a photo of his dog, tattooed on my left bicep.
And that's probably quite stretched out. Yeah, I can imagine he looks a little bit different now after all those push-ups, Matt, you've been doing. All right. Cool, excellent. We're going to jump to the next photo. This isn't you, is it?
That is me on the weekends. No, this is not me. So this is a photo that I took on May Day up here in Seattle. Every May 1st, they celebrate something called May Day, and I think they do it all over the world. But in Seattle, they have riots. They literally almost burn the city to the ground every single May 1st. So they have anarchists come out and people riot. And what this is a picture of a girl who's a nurse, and she shows up to the riots every year, and she provides medical aid to people that are in riots. So she's very easy to spot. Nobody messes with her. And I saw her there, just standing there, and I snapped a photo of it. I submitted it to the LFI magazine, which is Leica Photography International. It's a magazine that publishes photos after they've been selected by a jury of professional photographers. So think like photojournalists, wedding photographers, primarily photojournalists. And so they selected this one for their LFI magazine 2 years ago. And this actually was on the cover of their portrait. The portrait section.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about foreign languages, Matt, because you have Spanish heritage. Is that right?
ID. Sorry, I almost started speaking Spanish too. Yes, I do. So my father's family is from Spain, from Zaragoza, España, and my mother's family is from Mexico. So think Durango, Chihuahua. And so I'm actually half Mexican, half Spanish, even though I look like a white Jew. I'm half Mexican.
Nothing wrong with that, Matt.
Nothing wrong
with that.
That's it.
Okay. We've the reason I ask you that is because if anybody out there is looking to sit a foreign language exam, in particular English or Spanish, whatever, you're going to need to know how to describe photographs. And the reason I got Matt along today is because not just he's a great kind of public speaker and charismatic, and he's clearly a good photographer, but it's just a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about how to describe photographs. So for anybody that is interested in one iota, or for the YouTube audience further down the line, I mean, obviously you've got colours there, you've got roller skates, you've got knee pads. The woman is looking maybe in front of her. She's wearing a helmet. She's got the Red Cross there, which is actually interestingly above the screen now for the Italian Red Cross. She's got some wings, some fairy wings on, and she's got the arm pads as well in the background as well. It's a key word you could see. You could see some scaffolding. I think it's quite an industrial looking environment. You've got the shadow there casted along maybe the street or the alleyway. You've got some. It's quite a clean environment, that, Matt. I mean, that's in Seattle, is it? Sorry.
It is in Seattle. This was just before the May Day riots kicked off, so it's pristine.
Right, pristine condition. All right then, good. And they probably use half of that scaffolding as well to throw at the authorities and various institutions. All right, good. We are going to move to the next photo. What do we have here? Look at that.
Okay, so this is a photo that I took in a neighborhood here in Seattle. I was driving through a neighborhood called Beacon Hill, and it's kind of like an older neighborhood. It's a very ethnic neighborhood, and I have a lot of Chinese friends that live there. So I was actually visiting one of my Chinese friends here, and I drove by this house, and this, oddly enough, this weird black chair was just sitting. It was just there in front of this house with the Virgin Mary. So I thought it was kind of an odd scene. So I pulled over my car. I had my camera with me, of course, and I took this photo with my Leica M6. I think I had a roll of Kodak Portra 400 speed inside my Leica M6, which is an old school film camera. And I took this photo. I printed it out and I submitted it to Leica, and that actually was judged by, you know, the professionals to be a good photo. And so they selected this one to be in their, I think their urban landscapes. I forget. I'm pretty sure it was urban landscapes. But so this one actually made it into LFI magazine as well. And I named this one the Virgin Mary's Orphan Chair. So kind of fitting.
Interesting. Yeah. Good. And you know, this is we've got like now I have no idea about that any of the technical terminology here, but I can see some like shading in the bottom corners here. Is that intentional? What's that about?
Yeah, so that when I printed out the photo, I actually scanned it, and because I had to submit it electronically, I couldn't just mail them a photo. So I scanned the photo, and there's this program called Lightroom, and I actually added a vignette. A vignette creates like a shadowing effect around the photo. So this was early on. This was one of the first rolls of photos that I took, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I added way too much dark vignetting here on the edges, but they still liked it. So
yeah, that's it. All right, well, we're hoovering up some more vocabulary. We've got the vignetting, the corners, the darkness there, overexposed, maybe is a word you touched on earlier. And by the way, if you have any questions, we forgot to turn on the hand raise button. So I'm just going to turn that on right now. If you've got any questions for Matt, then now's the time to ask. You just look down in the bottom right corner of your screen. You can click raise hand. We can come to you immediately. I'm actually going to put a few questions to you. We've got Margie, you're in the house. There you are. I can see you there. You've been with us for much of the best part of today. Thanks for your support. Are you a keen photographer yourself?
I love to do photography. I'm not very good at it, but I keep trying.
Yeah. Okay.
And I loved what you were talking about in your endeavor to take photographs, and good ones. I love to listen to DeWitt Jones.
Oh yeah.
We show his videos in my leadership classes and he often says, just wait. And it reminded me, when you said that, it reminded me of him. So your photographs are just
I totally subscribe to that. Like, I'm not a big fan of going out and just snapping a bunch of photos. I like to just wait for that decisive moment. And you know, it's kind of an emotional experience. You just know when it happens.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Thanks, Margie. And we've got Nick in Canada.
Well, I took photography for 3 years, man. I got to say, your photos are great.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You know, yeah, I just want to say I'm excited to learn what we can learn from you, man.
Yeah, it's been a fun experience. I really appreciate comments. Thank you.
And what about the, you know, we live in a world that is, not only, you know, everybody's got a camera now in their pocket pretty much, haven't you? You know, like high quality camera. What do you think about that? I mean, is that kind of devaluing photography? What's the kind of general consensus among people who maybe take it a bit more seriously like you do?
You know, I will tell you, if I could make money, like pay my bills as a photojournalist, I'd quit my job as CEO and probably just do that full time, because I love it that much. I really love it, but it's kind of hard to make a living. There's really, really good photographers out there. But I will tell you, the best camera you have is the one that you have in your pocket. You don't need to go spend a bunch of money on a Leica. They're pretty expensive, or a Hasselblad. I mean, no one really knows the difference, actually. Most people can't tell the difference between a really expensive, like a $5,000 camera and a $15 camera. Because it's really up to the photographer. Yeah, it's up to the photographer. And yeah, it's just whatever you got that works for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, I guess we spoke about a world surrounded by information, and also it's a world surrounded maybe by this striving for perfection. Because you turn on the TV, you put on, have a look on the internet, and it's surrounded by beautiful people, beautiful bodies, and that's it. And you kind of actually maybe just experimenting more. We spoke with that at the top of this block with, or actually the first hour of a few hours ago with the Smithson family and Daniel Blair out in Canada. And maybe I think sometimes you think there's a bit too much pressure to get that ultimate shot, when actually if you just kind of experimented a little bit, you could actually bring out that perfection in imperfection as well.
I think there's a lot of beauty in imperfection. I think that's very, very well said. And the Smithsons are awesome. They're all total class acts, Julie and what's his name? Alan. I was gonna call him Michael. Yeah, they're great. They're wonderful, wonderful people. Alan is one of the guys that used our software from the virtually day one. So he's great. But there's a lot. Every day is not a sunny day. But I think a lot of people's social media feeds they don't have people believe that. We all know it's not true. So even though I have an MBA in social media marketing, I am not a fan of social media marketing. Actually, it's just because I don't believe that. I think we're using it wrong. I think it can be really, really bad for you when you're trying to blur the line between perception and reality. So I'm a big fan of
Great.
So.
I've got a follow-up question to that, but I think Diamond might, Margie, did you want to say something? You've muted yourself. There we go.
I did, didn't I? I was curious if you if you prefer photographing inanimate objects or people or activities, or do you have a preference?
Great question.
That's a great question. So when I first got into photography, I honestly did not know what the heck I was doing. So I just kind of stumbled along. And I actually feel like some of my best photographs were taken when I had no idea what I was doing. But because I was so ignorant and new at it, and but anyway, I will tell you that I really love street photography. So it basically, you just go out. I live in Seattle. I live in downtown Seattle. And I have a place in downtown Bellevue as well, 2 different cities. So and I'm usually traveling to a city of some sort. Not now, but when we can travel. And I'll just walk around the cities. And I like taking photos of whatever strikes me. It could be a landscape, it could be people. But I just like taking pictures of life, like kind of taking like a slice of life. And I really do enjoy, oddly enough, conflict photography. So going to like conflict zones like Iraq and Afghanistan, and getting photos of that life, because to them it's just normal life. It's just a normal part. They're normal, and to us it's very, very abnormal. So I like kind of bearing witness to just slices of life. What about you? Do you have a particular type of photography that you like?
I think I like doing animals.
Okay.
I just came in. I submitted my first picture, and I came into our Louisville magazine in Kentucky, and I came in 13th, and I just thought I was just the bee's knees.
Congrats! That's great.
It was just so cool.
Awesome.
And it was very affirming to do that.
Sure.
So.
Yeah,
That's
congratulations. Right. I love it. The world, I can just tell you this right now, the world needs more artists. So get out there and create. Yeah.
Exactly. And we've got another question. Anna, are you there?
My iPhone.
Anna, we've put you on loudspeaker, I think. Hang on. Yeah, you're on megaphone. Anna Carolina, do you want to say something?
I speak English, maybe.
You speak English fantastically. Continue.
Maybe I understand much what you say, but I speak English maybe. I'm from Brazil.
You're from Brazil. Welcome. So you speak
Yes.
Portuguese.
Eu falo
Yes.
português como bebê.
You're
Então tá
showing off
ótimo.
now.
Muito maneiro, muito maneiro.
Muito bom. Maneiro.
I love it.
Right, we're going to leave Matt and Anna to get on with this conversation. We're going to go downstairs and let them get on. You two need to add each other's friends and hook up after this meeting. So Anna, can I ask you a question? Do you take photographs often? Do you have a good camera like Matt?
This picture in Brazil have small cases coronavirus.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah, so they can't get out and shoot right now.
Eu falo pouco inglês. I speak maybe.
It's okay.
No.
Yeah. It's good.
That's great. Good to have you here. And yeah, she's looking at the photo up there, I think.
It's a lesson for English.
Yes and no.
It's a class.
Yes, Anna, we're going to describe some of the next photos. Yes. So welcome to the lesson. We can learn some English. Okay?
Thank you.
No problem. If you have questions, you can ask. We've got another question from someone in the house. Who's this? This is Devon, I think. Devon, far away.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask two questions actually. So first one, CEO, what do you shoot on? And then second of all, how has the coronavirus affected you? Because I'm a photographer myself. I do fashion, but I've noticed that it's been harder to shoot with people during this time period right now. So I'm curious if you have been shooting to circumvent that.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So I am, as you know, I'm the CEO of a software startup. So my bread and butter is breaking the rules, right? So even though we are on lockdown with coronavirus, I have been driving around in my car. I actually have an N95 respirator mask that I wear during the riots when I go photograph the riots here in Seattle every May Day. So I've been donning my N95 respirator mask and driving out and trying to capture different scenes of life. So I have a whole photo essay of the complete and total barren emptiness of downtown Seattle. And there's a particular area in downtown Seattle called Pioneer Square that's now completely overrun with, I'm not sure they're homeless, but it probably a mix of like homeless and drug abusers. It's pretty bad actually, and so I've been taking scenes of that as well because that is their new normal now. So it's kind of interesting what's happening. But I primarily, for a camera, I primarily travel almost daily, definitely daily with my Leica M6 and my Leica M3 film cameras, and I'll usually have like my Leica Q with me just as a backup digital camera. But I don't think it matters. Fair. Yeah, it's just kind of like whatever you have. What are you shooting with right now?
Yeah, that's and actually when you were saying earlier how it doesn't really matter what you shoot on, I couldn't back that up enough. Just because I'm a self-taught photographer, and so I started off on a piece of crap like Nikon 10 years ago and just started learning from there. And so it really isn't what you have; it's what you can do with it and what you learn to do with it. So now I'm shooting on a 5D Mark IV, so with a Canon. And yeah,
that's a great camera.
Yeah, it's just it's my go-to.
Yeah, that's a good piece of kit. They're tough as hell too. Those are really good. But yeah, like if you got everybody has a phone in their pocket. Meaning everyone's a photographer now. So everybody's and there's some stunning photographs coming out of just phones now. So there's a good Instagram called
11.
Yeah, there's a good Instagram called iPhone Only. Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Great. Okay, thanks for the questions. And just to recap again, this, as Anna said, is this an English lesson, Anna? Well, yes, it is kind of, and this was the purpose of the event, because Matt just used a great expression there. He said, it's a great piece of kit. KIT, a great piece of kit. In other words, good tools, good equipment to help Devon take his photographs. So these are natural expressions that we're hearing from American English. So yeah, we're going to pick up some more vocabulary as we go along. But let's jump forward now to the next photo. I can see there are possibly some more questions in the pipeline. But the next photo is this, and this is you, isn't it?
That is me. You can see the very dark circles under my eyes. So I recently, it's very cold still up here in downtown Seattle. And I recently, so since the coronavirus started, this was very, very early in when it started, but in the first 9 days of it happening in Wuhan, China, our users at my company went up 413%. And we make a virtual reality education and training platform. So I have, for probably the last couple months, I've been sleeping about 2 or 3 hours every 2 or 3 days. And before the virus hit the US, I actually still went on my daily photo walk. And that is me after, no, I'm sorry, this was almost 2 straight days of no sleep. And so I was like, you know what? I got to get out there and feed my soul. So I threw on my camera. I actually have a Leica SL on this one, but I have an M lens. I have a 75 millimeter manual focus Leica M lens, because I just like the manual nature of working a camera manually. And that was after almost 2 straight days of no sleep, going on a photo walk with a buddy of mine who couldn't get enough photos of the bags under my eyes. So.
That's and why wouldn't you sleep in that? Was that because of working on your projects there with your company, because of the surge in demand?
Yeah, we have, it's hard to keep up with the surge in demand right now because of the virus. And for us, it's been happening since the first cases started coming out of China. Our demand skyrocketed. So I've been working, just trying to help people around the world adopt our software so that they can experience as minimal interruptions to their work and school life as possible. So, and we opened it up for free. So we didn't want to be seen as a virus profiteer. So we were just like, you know what? The world can have our software for free. We're not, and as CEO, I'm not taking a salary for the rest of the year either, because I don't think it's right to do that. So that's why there's bags under my eyes.
Okay. Well done. You've explained the bags, and yeah, I think as well. Yeah, if you don't know Rumi, check that out as RUMII. It's a different kind of virtual space that you can visit. We're in Alt Space now. There's Rumi as well, and you should definitely check that out because that offers other capabilities. For example, you can have these 3D models that you can very easily bring into the space, and we saw some of those in the previous lessons today. So definitely check out Rumi if you're not familiar with that. Let's move on to the next photo then. That's you. What were you taking a picture of there?
I was taking a picture of a dude smoking a joint in public up here. So in Seattle, if you're not familiar, we have pretty liberal cannabis laws. And I just saw this guy puffing away, and I was like, "Oh, that's a great photo." So I snapped a bunch of snaps of him just puffing away in public. They're great photos, but I didn't know kind of what the audience was here, so I didn't submit those photos for this talk.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
well, that's okay. So you come on to the next question. Is like what people's reaction is to you taking photos of them. Have you ever had any kind of confrontational situations? What's the story there?
I never have. So I know a lot of photographers probably do, but there's this guy, Robert Capa. He's a famous photographer, and he had these sayings. He's one of the first conflict photographers from the Spanish Civil War. He has these famous photos from the Spanish Civil War and on. And I actually have one of the original prints from his. He was the only photographer to go in with the troops on D-Day, and I think he had a Leica M3 film camera, and so I have one of his actual prints from D-Day, from the D-Day invasion, showing the rawness of that reality. And he had these two sayings. One of them was, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. So you got to get close to your subject, but you also have to be kind of like a fly on the wall, right? Like he said, I forget what the exact saying was, but be invisible, be invisible. So it's being as invisible as possible. So this what you're seeing here, this represents about maybe half a second. So this is a manual lens. Manual lenses, in my opinion, focus a lot quicker than autofocus lens, because in street photography, I'll set it to focus at an certain focal length. So usually about 2 or 3 meters. And that way, when I pull up the camera, I just snap it and I put it back down. I don't even need to focus. I don't need to manually focus. It's already set. I don't need to work with an autofocus. I just pull it up, snap it, and put it back down. So it's probably less than half a second right here. But my buddy, who couldn't get enough of my freaking dark eyes, dark circles, had his iPhone on me the entire time. So
Okay. Right. Yeah. So, all right, good. And then we spoke actually, and as we approach the final 5 minutes of this very informative chat, is the element of the fact that you started photography as an escape in some ways from, let's say, the technological mayhem or kind of busy nature of your work. But what about this kind of osmosis of the photography feeding back into the work that you do? I mean, has it changed your perspective of the way you go about your business?
Ah, man, that's such a good question. Yes, it absolutely has. It absolutely has. So, it's given me a very deep appreciation for art, something I had before, but not in this personal way. And I've always been a firm believer that the world needs more artists. But in this kind of context, like in my work, in an immersive context, we are actually kind of viewing the world in our HMDs as though we're looking through a camera. So we have a certain field of view, right? You can't see, you don't have very good peripheral vision, just like you're looking through a rangefinder. So it focuses your attention forward. And I like it because it creates a better relationship, and more immersive relationship between you and your subject. And your subject could be you, Michael, like you and I are talking right now. So I'm fully immersed in you. And I feel like it's just given me a better appreciation for building the three-dimensional worlds and the interactions that we're having. So
yeah, awesome. Okay, we've got a few questions on it. Buddy, sorry, you've been very, very patient. Fire away, buddy. Do you want to try again? Have you fixed your audio? You're on megaphone.
Yeah, I'm not on megaphone yet, but my audio's working.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, you are hilarious with these pictures. The guy, you just take a shot of the guy with the joint. You're like, ooh, look at this guy with a joint. Got him. Okay, and then you just put his hand like that. Oh, he looking at me? Oh no. I'm just getting a cup of coffee on coffee. I know about 10 minutes later, you went up to him and said, hey, let me get some of that.
Do you take photos, buddy? Are you a photographer yourself?
I do a little dabble here and there.
Yeah. What's the best picture you've ever taken? Can you name one?
That's a
friends.
I mean, I take prank videos of people, and I take a picture of them. And like one time, I went up to a sleepover, and then I took a picture of my friend. No, actually, all the way around. People came to my house, and this lady actually came over. She didn't mean to spend the night, but she fell asleep on her couch. I took a picture of her, and I made some edits to her face. Then I had a caption that said, "Look, I'm a clown," and it was so funny. I showed it to her. She was busting out laughing. It was real.
Excellent. The great contribution, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's the ability to not just take the photo, but to edit it and to add stuff on top of it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you can. I try to, for my photos, I try to edit as minimally as possible now, because I like to just show like the raw scene. But you know, they photos most definitely still do need to be edited slightly for sure. Yeah, cleaned up.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Well, we're approaching the runway, everybody. We're coming to the landing spot, and what I just want to do, because we've got some quite a good number here as well. We've got Matt here. We're going to give a big round of applause first and foremost for Matt sharing his great photography. Can we get some hands, some hearts, some smiley faces? There we go. If that's not a motivation boost, I don't know what is. And then what I want to do as well is just get a snap of all of you. Could you come towards the big screen, please? Because I want to bring up here just a little reminder of what we're doing standing here today, and it's to register our support for the people fighting the coronavirus out in Italy, in particular in the south at the moment. And there's a hashtag we've got going, actually, which is very common at the moment on Twitter. It's andrà tutto bene. Does anybody know what that means? Andrà tutto bene. Matt, do you want to have a guess?
Is it? Oh, I know what tutto bene means, but I'm not sure what Andra means. Is that someone's first name?
No, good shout. It's basically means it will be. It's the future of the verb to be. So yeah, it will go well. So if you just want to face me towards this window, we're going to take a couple of photos. We're going to send this out to the Italians who are having a bit of a tough time at the moment, and I'm sure elsewhere in the world. So I think the camera's picking up that. And in 3, 2, 1, give us some hearts. Excellent. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're going to stay in this space now for, I think, another 5 or 6 hours, and then it's bedtime for me. Matt, thanks again, mate. All the best. Thanks a lot for coming, everybody. And the next subject is food and drink.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
I had a serious question.
Another biscuit.
Sure.
What's up? Off topic, but do you know how to use like
Marge,